The phone was on the concrete floor of the third level of the parking garage at 2 in the morning, screen up, beside the front tire of a white Tesla that had been sitting in the same spot since 5:15 the previous afternoon. The single dad found it because he had stopped to fasten the wheel brake of his cleaning cart, which had been squeaking since Tuesday and had finally, that night, started to drift on its own when he let go of the handle on an uneven slab. His name was Eli Garza. He was 40. He had been on the night shift cleaning rotation at the Whitlock Tower in Indianapolis for 2 years and 1 month. He drove a 2014 Ford Focus with a duct-taped passenger side mirror. He had a folded paper napkin in the breast pocket of his clean navy work shirt with a small red crayon heart at the corner that his 12-year-old daughter Iris had drawn the morning before. He had short dark hair just turning gray at the temples and the steady level eyes of a man who had not been surprised by another adult in a very long time. He had been widowed 3 years and 4 months. His wife Camilla had died at 36 of a sudden brain aneurysm in their own kitchen on a Tuesday morning while she was packing Iris's school lunch. He had taken the night shift job at Whitlock Tower because the shift ran from 8:30 p.m. to 5 a.m., and his sister-in-law Della could sleep on his couch 4 nights a week with Iris in the next room, and because the cleaning company paid for a school bus pass on the 18 line that picked Iris up at her front door at 7:20 in the morning and dropped her back home at 3:40, and because he could be there for both runs. He saw the phone. He bent down. He picked it up. It was a current model phone in a plain dark leather case. There were no rings, no charms, no business stickers. The screen was lit because, the witness narration would learn later, the owner had set it not to dim. There was no notification banner. There was only the lock screen wallpaper. The lock screen wallpaper was a photograph. The photograph was of a high school boy in a borrowed navy suit with a yellow boutonniere, and a high school girl in a soft yellow prom dress, standing in front of a folding paper flower arbor in a school gymnasium that Eli Garza could have drawn from memory if anyone had ever asked him to. The boy in the photograph was Eli Garza, age 17. The girl in the photograph was Maggie Linfield. He had not seen her in 23 years. The narration steps closer now. It rides Wendell Pace. Wendell Pace was the overnight security guard at the Whitlock Tower. He was 58. He had been at the building since 1998. He had a low, warm voice and a steady, patient face, and a quiet folding chair behind the lobby desk that he sat in for 7 hours every night with a paperback novel. He had been watching Eli Garza on the lobby camera at the moment that Eli came back down from the third level of the garage with the phone in his right hand, and he had been able to tell, even from the lobby's grainy monitor, that something on the screen had stopped him. Eli came to the lobby desk. He set the phone gently on the wood, screen down. He said, polite, "Wendell, I need a favor." Wendell said, "Sure, Eli." Eli said, "Who's Tesla on level 3, the white one in spot 84?" Wendell said, 84, let me check. He scrolled the badge log on his console. He said, "That's Ms. Linfield, CFO. She came in at 5:15 yesterday afternoon for the executive committee. The committee ran late. She left without scanning her badge out, which means she probably forgot her car. The Tesla auto locks. The phone could be anywhere." Eli said, "Level, Wendell, it is here." He turned the phone over. He set it on the lobby desk. Wendell looked at it. He looked at the lock screen photo. He looked at Eli. He said very gently, "Eli, is that you?" Eli said, "Wendell, it is." Wendell sat back in his chair. He said, "Brother, take a seat." Eli took a seat. The narration sees what comes next. The phone, of course, was Magdalena Linfield's. Magdalena Linfield was, that year, the chief financial officer of Whitlock Industries. She had been promoted into the role 13 months earlier from the CFO seat of a competing firm in Boston. She was 41. She was a widow herself of 14 months, after her husband Brennan Linfield had died of a sudden cardiac event at 44. She had a 14-year-old son named Theo. She had taken the Whitlock job, the witness narration would learn later, because the building had a school bus route on the 14 line that picked Theo up at the corner of her new apartment building at 7:20 in the morning and dropped him back home at 3:40. She had set the lock screen photograph the night her husband died, 14 months earlier, because she had not wanted, at 3 in the morning on the night that Brennan died, to look at a phone that did not have a face on it. She had picked the only photograph she still had in her desk drawer from the only year of her life when she had not been alone. She had been 17 years old in the photograph. She had been wearing a soft yellow prom dress. The boy in the photograph in the borrowed navy suit had moved out of state with his family 3 weeks after the picture was taken and had not in the 23 years since ever come back through her town. She had married someone else at 26. She had taken his last name. She had become a CFO. She had not in 23 years ever changed the lock screen photograph back to anyone else. She had been alone in a parked Tesla on level 3 of the Whitlock Tower's garage at 4:15 the previous afternoon when the executive committee had broken up early, and she had sat with the engine off for an hour without crying, the way a 41-year-old widow sits in a parked car when she is supposed to be a CFO. She had walked at 5:30 back to the lobby to ride the elevator home with her son, who was waiting in her office because the chess club had let out early at school. She had left her phone on the concrete beside the front tire. Eli Garza turned the phone face up on the lobby desk again at 2:07 in the morning. He said, "Wendell, what time does she come in?" Wendell said, 8:30, same time as the committee. Eli said, "Wendell, I will leave the phone with you. If she comes down to the lobby looking for it, please give it back. Tell her you did not look at the lock screen. I would prefer that, sir." Wendell said, "Brother, she will look. She has it set to not dim." Eli said, "Wendell, I'm not ready to know if she is the same person. I cannot tell from a photo of her at 17 if she is the same person at 40. I cleaned for 2 years at this building before I ever heard the CFO's last name. I have never said hello to her in the lobby. I do not want this to be the first time." Wendell said, "Brother, I understand. I will sit on it." Eli said, "Thank you, sir." He went back to the 3rd level. He finished his cleaning round at 4:40. The narration steps to the next morning. At 8:14 in the morning, Magdalena Linfield came through the lobby doors of the Whitlock Tower with a leather tote on her shoulder and a wild expression on her face that did not match her tailored navy suit. She walked straight to the security desk. She said, polite as a Sunday but with the slightly breathless cadence of a woman who has spent 14 hours without a phone, "Wendell, sir, I'm very sorry. I think I left my phone in the garage yesterday afternoon. I do not have a way to call my son. Has anyone turned a phone in?" Wendell said, "Ms. Linfield, yes, ma'am, the overnight cleaning team found it. It is in the lockbox under the desk. May I bring it up?" She said, "Yes, please." Wendell brought it up. He set it on the desk gently, screen down. She said, polite, "Thank you, Wendell. May I ask who found it?" Wendell said, "Ma'am, the overnight cleaner. His name is Eli." She said very quietly, "Wendell, may I ask Eli's last name?" Wendell said, "Garza, ma'am." She did not say anything for a long moment. She looked at Wendell. She said, "Wendell, he found it on the floor of the garage. Did he turn the screen face up before he gave it to you?" Wendell said gently, "Ma'am, he did." She said, "Wendell, may I see the cleaning roster?" Wendell said, "Yes, ma'am." She read it. She said, "Wendell, he's been here for 2 years and 1 month." Wendell said, "Ma'am, he has." Magdalena Linfield said, "Wendell, will he be back tonight at 8:30? Wendell said, "Ma'am, he will." She said, level, "Wendell, may I ask you a favor? May I sit at the desk with you tonight when he comes in? I do not want to ambush him. I want him to be able to walk past me if he wants to." Wendell said, "Ms. Linfield, you may sit at the desk." She sat at the desk. The narration seized the night. Eli Garza came in at 8:28. He was carrying his folded paper napkin from the morning in his breast pocket. He was wearing his clean navy work shirt and his polished black work boots. He saw Magdalena Linfield at the lobby desk before she saw him because he had a habit, after 23 years, of looking up at a desk before he walked past one. He stopped. She looked up. The narration sees what does not need to be narrated. It steps back. It lets the two of them stand at opposite ends of the lobby of the Whitlock Tower in Indianapolis at 8:28 on a Tuesday night, and look at each other for a long moment that the witness narration knows better than to interrupt. Wendell Pace behind the desk did not move. Eli said, level, "Maggie." She said, level, "Eli." He said, polite, "Wendell told me you came in for the phone. I am very glad. I am sorry if I gave you a fright with the screen. I did not look at the gallery, only the lock screen. I am sorry." She said, polite, "Eli, You did not give me a fright, thank you for picking it up. He said, of course. She said, Eli, Wendell told me you have been here for 2 years. He said, yes, ma'am. She said, Eli, may I ask how old your daughter is? He said, 12, ma'am. She said, Eli, may I ask her name? He said, Iris. She said, Iris, that is a beautiful name. He said, thank you, my son is 14, ma'am, his name is Theo. She said, Theo, that is also a beautiful name. He said, yes, ma'am. She said, Eli, may I ask, would you mind? Would you mind if I waited in the lobby on Friday night when you came in at 8:30? I would like to bring you a cup of coffee. I do not want to interrupt your shift. I would like only 15 minutes. I am sorry, I am asking poorly. He said, Maggie, you are asking fine. I would like that. She said, Friday at 8:30. He said, Friday at 8:30. The narration steps 6 weeks forward, because the niche steps when the heart is the engine and the time jump is gentle. 6 weeks later, on the first Sunday afternoon of October, Eli Garza and Iris drove out to a small park on the north side of Indianapolis to meet Magdalena Linfield and Theo for a picnic. Iris had baked oatmeal cookies. Theo had brought a chess board. They did not say grace. They did not need to. The 2 adults sat at the picnic table while the 2 children played chess on a folded blanket on the grass. Eli pulled out the folded paper napkin from his shirt pocket and showed Maggie the small red crayon heart in the corner that Iris had drawn for him 3 years and 4 months earlier on the morning of his first night shift, after Camilla had died. He did not unfold it. He showed her the corner. He put it back. Maggie reached into her tote bag. She pulled out a folded paper napkin of her own. It had a small blue crayon heart in the corner. Theo, the witness narration would learn later, had drawn the blue heart 14 months earlier on the morning of Brennan's funeral. Maggie did not unfold her napkin either. She showed Eli the corner. She put it back. The witness narration steps a year forward. A year later, on a Tuesday evening in October, Eli Garza was promoted off the night shift cleaning rotation at the Whitlock Tower to a daytime maintenance supervisor position that ran from 8:30 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon, so that he could be home for the school bus on the 18 line at 3:40 for Iris, and so that he could pick up Theo from the chess club at the school 6 blocks over at 4:15 on the days that Theo's mother was traveling. Magdalena Linfield kept her CFO seat. She moved her own office 1 floor down so that her commute would line up with Eli's. They did not marry. They did not need to. The witness narration closes on a quiet Saturday afternoon in their slow, careful, blended family 2 years on, when Iris, 14, and Theo, 16, were arguing politely at the kitchen table about whose turn it was to clean up the chess pieces, and Eli was at the kitchen counter making coffee, and Maggie was at the kitchen table reading the newspaper, and a phone on the counter buzzed. She picked it up. She turned the screen toward Eli. The lock screen photo was no longer the 2 of them at 17. The lock screen photo was the 4 of them on a folded blanket in a small park on the north side of Indianapolis on a Sunday afternoon in October. She said, polite, I changed it last weekend. He said, I know, I saw. She said, was that all right? He said, Maggie, it is the only photo I have ever wanted on a lock screen in my life. She put the phone face down on the table. Wendell Pace, retired from the Whitlock Tower the spring before, tells this story to his grandchildren on the porch in Bloomington every fall. He tells them that a single dad named Eli stopped at the 3rd level of the garage at 2 in the morning because his cleaning cart's wheel brake was loose. He tells them that the lock screen photo on the phone he found was a picture of him at 17. He tells them that some loves were not lost. They were only put on a phone for 23 years until the right cleaner stopped to fasten a brake. He tells them that the right brake to fasten is always the next one. He tells them that the next 23 years are sometimes waiting on the wheel brake of a cleaning cart at 2 in the morning on the 3rd level of a parking garage. He tells them that some lock screens are only waiting. He tells them that the cleaner who picked it up was the only kind of man worth waiting for.